The views expressed on the Badge to the Bone podcast, while often accurate and sometimes even funny, are not intended to represent the official positions of any law enforcement, public safety agency, or their employees. So lighten up. This podcast contains mature themes, strong language, violence, and nudity. Okay, maybe not the last two. Listener discretion is advised.
Welcome to Badge to the Bone podcast. The time has finally come for us to kick off episode 1. We are your hosts, Denny and Al. We have lots to talk about, so let's waste no time and jump right on in. Episode 1. Al, it's here.
I can't believe we actually did this.
You know, I can't either. It's rather surprising. Being that I know us, it's rather surprising.
Yeah, anybody that knows this is pretty surprising.
Yeah, they're probably thinking, what the hell? But that's what makes it good.
It's a good thing you figured out all this wire spaghetti in front of me.
Yeah, I think at some point I'll try to neaten that up or not. But as long as everything's working.
Hey, it's
I
working.
didn't say I was neat.
And I have a beverage, so, all the better.
I as well. Mine's not quite as stiff as yours, but I have one as well.
I'm stiff. Okay. Well, all right. It's going to be an interesting show.
Well, at least here's a disclaimer.
Mm-hmm.
So, I figured it would probably be a good idea for this episode for us to kind of talk about ourselves a little bit.
Yeah.
Just who we are and our experience and really what our goal is here at Badge to the Bone.
Why do you want to listen to these two mopes?
That is a good question that I've pondered for quite a while.
Mm-hmm.
And really the truth of the matter is we're going to talk about some serious issues that face public safety, first responders, and a lot of focus will be on law enforcement because that's where our heavy influence is with our experience. But, we're going to cover some serious topics, things like PTSD, suicide prevention, mental wellness, mental health, emotional trauma,
leadership issues, employment issues,
recruitment,
the day-to-day of the job.
The day-to-day of the job. That right there. But we're going to cover a lot. And yes, there are a lot of podcasts that go over these things.
A lot of news. Oh, my God.
There's
more news today. We'll get to that at a later episode. But
yeah, man, the news doesn't seem to be so good these days either.
No, it's usually not sunshine and rainbows.
But, I think it's important to have as many podcasts as you can to discuss these issues. It's law enforcement is facing a very trying time right now, and really first responders in general, because people don't want to do the job, and being at such a trying time, I think podcasts like this give an outlet to discuss these issues. It gives us a chance to bring some people on that have some great perspectives on these issues. And when it comes to things like suicide prevention and mental wellness, I think everything you can listen to on that front is important.
Yeah, I mean, think back. I mean, good Lord, and I'm still on the job, and for a little while longer, and look back, I'm like a dinosaur now.
Yeah, when did we become the old guy in roll call or at training, particularly training, in-service? When did I become the old guy? Now, I'm not still in law enforcement. I did hop out about 2 years ago, but after about 20 years, but there was a time that I looked around at in-service and said, man,
who are these children they're sending us?
Right, who are these kids? Is it Halloween? Is this a costume party?
Oh, God.
Who are all these people wearing uniforms?
I was teaching at an academy recently, and they kids born after 9/11.
Yeah. I mean, weren't even around during that.
Yeah,
but they said the same thing about me. I mean, I look young. I mean, devilishly handsome, but young as well.
Good thing this is radio.
But I mean, I looked young. I mean, I was so young that they actually slapped me in some plain clothes, put me in high school for a little bit. So, yeah, I got to do that for a little bit, and that's interesting.
Your 21 Jump Street days.
Yeah, I think the statute of limitations on everything has passed, so we can probably discuss that in an episode. But we'll get to that at some point, maybe.
Oh God, that one was funny.
But yeah, I mean, it's so much has changed. I mean, look at the training now compared to what it used to be.
Oh God. Well, I mean, just good Lord, you got us two sitting on a podcast for law enforcement.
Yeah. Wow.
You'd ask me 20 years, what the hell is a podcast? You know, and obviously we're not the only ones doing that, but you know, and then, holy crap, talking about the elephant in the room, wellness.
Yeah,
mental health.
That was really hardly ever discussed. I mean, I want to say when we went to the academy, there was a brief segment on, hey, you're going to see a lot of really bad shit.
And now for traffic direction.
Right. I mean, it was like, hey, you know, if it bothers you, go talk to somebody. It's going to be really bad. But, you know, this is what you sign up for, so suck it up. Pretty much. But, hey, if you need to talk to somebody, talk to them. But suck it up. That was
talk to them. But you may not be employed here tomorrow, but talk to them.
It was pretty much it. I mean, I can't even really remember what they said about trauma and emotional trauma and any kind of PTSD.
I can tell you what was said in my academy, you know, back in the Jurassic period. And it just, to be honest, it was
back
only
in
a
the
little
Crown
over,
Vic era.
Yeah, well, Chevy Caprice.
Chevy Caprice, LT1.
God, the 4-wheel boat. And they said exactly nothing.
Yeah.
Nothing.
I remember it being brought up, but it really wasn't discussed. You know, it really hasn't come into the forefront, but, you know, the past couple of years.
Yeah.
Really. I mean, probably the past 5-6 years, maybe.
You know, it's probably only the result. Like, you think, like, okay, so coming off of 9/11, right? And you know, we're both on the job.
Yes.
You know, right after during 9/11, and
that was actually when I was in high school. Yeah.
Oh, when you were your 21 Jump Street days.
Yes.
That we haven't covered.
I was
yet.
actually watching it in a classroom as a student, not real student, in class.
That's just surreal.
Yeah.
But yeah, you know, and nobody talked about it then.
Right.
Nobody talked about that. Right. And you know, I think, you know, the profession has gone. I mean, I'm just going to call it what it is. The profession has really hit a terrible, terrible low. It probably kicked off with the Ferguson stuff, and so now we're talking.
Yeah, that was bad. Yep.
Yeah. Now we're talking 8 years ago now.
Wow.
Yeah.
Has it been 8 years?
Yeah. Yeah.
Damn. I mean, that is. I mean, that really shows the longevity of, you know, the I don't want to say downfall, but the low point of law enforcement. I mean, and law enforcement's always had, you know, peaks and valleys, you know, ups and lows. There's always been incidents and things that have happened throughout history that have brought law enforcement under scrutiny, under pressure, and, you know, law enforcement always adjusts and adapts and recovers.
May take us a while.
And this
we're slow learners.
It seems to be lingering a little while longer. You know, it's and it's unfortunate. But you know, that mental wellness aspect definitely
didn't start until sometime after that ball got rolling, and and that's when, you know, the recruitment woes hit.
Yep.
And that's when, you know, we were in the crosshairs, still are in the crosshairs of many a politician, many a media figure, many a practitioner of the dark arts, and you know, all that adds to stress levels.
It does, and it seems like it's just so easy to, you know, throw law enforcement under the bus and really chastise them for a political expediency. It just is really easy, and it's unfortunate. But that does add to the stress of the job.
Well, and then what happens? People say, I'm done with this. I'm out, right? I'm
Yep.
out. I'm done. Forget it. I did 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, 20 years. I'm out.
Yep.
Right? And, but you got guys, for whatever reason, and I got good friends that are in this position, they can't quit.
Yeah,
They can't quit. And they go into to roll call, and they go, yeah, this precinct, which is, the land area of many a good size city, has 2 guys for the next 12 hours.
Oh wow.
That's insane. And by the way, don't mess with anything because you're going to be prosecuted.
Well, it's not only insane; it's dangerous.
Yeah, it's absolutely
It's
dangerous.
dangerous. But I mean, and it's definitely a near and dear topic to me, just because I've had my own struggles with emotional stress and the toll it took on me, and the damage that it caused. I was really on the verge of losing everything. I mean everything. It all gone. I mean,
of course, you folks out there in podcast land don't know this, but Denny and I have known each other for
Wow.
God, 35.
Shut your mouth when you're talking to me.
30 more than a day. And so we watched the evolution of each other's careers, our friends' careers, our mutual friends' careers. So yeah, I remember that unfolding, because it was like, hey Denny, you're standing on a set of train tracks, and hey Denny, that's a train, and oh shit. And
Yep.
yeah, but you know what, you're not alone.
No, you're absolutely right, Al. And that's really, I think, one of the biggest things that helped me through is coming to that realization and hearing other cops, other first responders talk about struggles and issues and things that they've gone through. And, a lot of it was, folks that I really respected. I mean, we're not talking about, the desk jockey that has to worry about getting the paper cut, or a cramp from typing up policy and shit like that.
Easy. And that's my Twilight job.
Twilight's okay. Twilight's okay. For some, that's been their primary job for the majority of the career. So I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about, cops that, I really held in high regard, that were, go-getters, hard workers, afraid of nothing, fearless. And to hear them, open up about, things that have happened and how it's impacted them and how they struggled, that helped me relate to.
Well, I think people that say that they don't have any struggles are they're just freaking lying. I mean, they're lying. I mean, every situation is different, and no two situations are the same. I'll stand here and tell you, I've dealt with my own issues,
right?
Which probably didn't reach the level of severity that you experienced.
Sure.
But
it's all impactful.
Right.
And it affects you.
And sometimes it's that big bang, but most of the time it's that drip
Yep.
of years. And people would go, oh, you've seen terrible things, and yeah, I've seen terrible things. Or you've had to do terrible things. Well, yeah, I had to do some of that, and but other times it's like, oh my God, there's like stuff just in your own house, in my own, like your own agency, right? Like your own agency. You're like, oh my God, where's the most stress coming? I get less stress on the street than I do inside my own my own office.
Sometimes we're our own worst enemy on that.
And that's a topic I think we're going to explore as this goes forward to some extent.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
But you know what? Why should they listen to us? Why should they listen to us? Other than you talking about your experience, I'm talking so Denny.
Yep. Al.
What was your Like what was kind of like your career track, you know?
Mine kind of bounced around. I started with a small sheriff's office. We only had about 35 total, and I was a road deputy there. Got hired there. I was actually had just come out of the Coast Guard. I was active duty Coast Guard for 4 years.
That is a military service.
It is. Thank you very much. It's Homeland Security now, and even much cooler now because of all the funding. But it was still cool. So, and I was there for about 3 years, and my first year there actually was when they sent me on loan to another jurisdiction that was trying to get somebody into the high school, get some intel, and had suspicions of drug activity, stuff like that.
Now we're back to the 21 Jump Street days.
Sure. And it was a very, very short stint, but I did that there.
But hilarious.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, definitely interesting. But I spent 3 years with the sheriff's office as a road deputy, and then I was looking for that that big activity, that big action. I was full of piss and vinegar and wanted to run and gun, and it was a small agency, so there wasn't a whole lot of opportunity to do other things other than patrol, school resource, and there's 2 detective spots. So unless one of them leave, you really didn't have a lot of growth. I mean, it's a great agency, and I'm still very connected to them, and fantastic agency. But I was just wanted that big, I think maybe I watched too much Hollywood. So then I went to a city department, pretty high violence, high crime, and I went to the precinct with the most violence and crime, a lot of homicide, a lot of drugs, a lot of shootings, guns, all that. So, and I ran in the gun. I was running the gun for about 2 years, and had a partner, ran a 2-man car. Great guy, still friends to this day, former NYPD. He moved back down to Virginia, where he's originally from, and came to the department, and we worked together. We had an incident there where 2 officers got involved in a shooting, and maybe at some point we'll go into some details, but long and short of the officer was actually being drugged on a traffic stop, and then they shot the suspect, and the prosecuting attorney at the time decided he wants to make a name for himself. Had already tried to convict an officer before. After 3 trials, it didn't go through, so now they decided to charge these 2 officers and drug them through 2 lengthy trials. It was horrible, and we kind of decided that this place isn't going to look out for us. If something goes sideways, we are not going to be looked out for at all. And this was before things got to what it was today.
Oh yeah.
So
and sadly, that particular agency has gotten even worse in that respect.
It has, and we maybe again we might visit that at some point as well. But so I decided to leave and go to another agency, a county department. Had a little mixed bag of everything. It's a pretty good sized department, 500 and change. But it was, I'm a second generation officer. My father was in law enforcement for 43 years, and he served on this department, and they pretty much recruited me to go there, and I did, and I pretty much spent 15 years there, and had a pretty good career for me. Now, in patrol, I did investigations. I went to their persons crimes units with, homicides.
Oh, you did pretty
robberies,
much everything.
Death investigations, stuff like that. I had some promotions to sergeant. Went to sergeant back in patrol, went to sergeant investigations, got promoted from investigations to lieutenant, and went back as a platoon commander on the road. And then things where it seemed like things were really peaking, what people didn't know is, I seemed to be excelling at work, but I wasn't functioning anywhere else.
Right.
And I had a lot of things going on, and then it just kind of went down from there. I think maybe we'll probably save that for
that's almost
time,
like
but,
episode unto itself.
But a lot of things had really caused, some issues for me where I struggled, and it affected me. It ended up affecting the job, but it affected my personal life, and it had a big impact. And there was a really dark place I was in, really dark. But one of the things that really helped me get through it was listening to other officers tell their story. other officers hear what they went through and know that it's not an end of the road situation. I'm not sunk. It's not done. It's, there's still ability to move forward and recover and grow from it, which I have work to do. But that's why this, the mental health aspect is a big topic for me and very important to me.
Yeah. Well, I think I got in about the same time. No, I got in ahead of you.
Yeah, you were pretty far ahead of me.
I got ahead of you.
I went to your academy graduation for your first agency.
Yeah, so I started with a...
Actually, I was in the Coast Guard because I was still the Coast Guard because I remember being in my Coast Guard uniform.
You were in
graduation.
You were in your uniform at my graduation.
I do. I remember that now.
Yeah, I started at a small, I guess you could say a small city, 50,000 residents in Virginia, probably twice that realistically.
Right. Yeah.
And I worked there for about 2 years. Was thinking about getting married and, wanted to come back to, our hometown.
Yep.
And, so I after 2 years there, I took a job with a major university PD and did that. Actually, really, really, really liked that. That was, and that's another agency that too has evolved a lot.
Yeah, they definitely have grown.
But that was a great job, and we almost served as like another precinct for the municipality. And just worked midnights, stayed busy, running and gunning, had a great time. But didn't feel like there was a lot of growth opportunities there at the time, and at that time there weren't. So I took a job with a state agency and actually kind of a non-traditional law enforcement agency, a police agency nonetheless, but a non-traditional agency. Put that in air quotes. Kind of came back and started, working the same area, working with a lot of the same people. But this time I got to work across jurisdictional boundaries. I got to, work with people I already knew, but I also got to meet a lot of extra folks and make new relationships, new friendships.
We actually met up on a couple of times.
More than once, because this particular job took me into areas doing, a lot of vice work, a lot of narcotics work. I had a lot of narcotics work for probably about a 10-year stretch. I did a lot of narcotics work. And then a few years back, it was time to kind of come in from the cold, and an opportunity presented itself to where, I am that paper pusher sometimes now. But I'm wearing multiple hats at this agency because we're not super big, and so I'm doing training, which I really love training stuff. Hiring, which is challenging, and internal affairs.
There it is.
There it is. The great disclosure of this podcast.
Mute your mic now. You are done, sir.
Yeah. But,
thank you for coming. See you later.
Yeah, but that, like I said, there's a whole thing you can talk about on that, and and as we go forward, that is definitely an aspect I want to talk about, because I can be Darth Vader, but it doesn't necessarily need to be Darth Vader.
No, I definitely think we should go over the internal affairs. You should talk about that so we can generate some great hate mail.
Well, just starting out, that's what we need is some hate mail.
Yeah, we're not getting any mail, so at least we'll get some hate mail.
Well, that's good. That's good.
Something's
better than nothing, right?
I agree.
Okay. Well, so all in, I got over 25 years.
Yeah.
So I'll be candid with the with the audience. You know, I'm minding my P's and Q's to a good extent. You know, because I am not yet off active duty, although that date is approaching. We may even celebrate it here.
Oh, all right. I like it.
Yeah. So, but I've worn a lot of hats, you know, from patrol to investigations, you know, to doing things like, you know, property crimes and vice and drugs and training and hiring and IA and God forbid even a little bit of policy and accreditation. And you know, it's been a good career. It's not been an easy career.
Sure. Well, I think we've definitely both had a pretty good amount of diversity.
Yeah.
Some varied experiences. But no, no one ever said it's an easy career.
No, only the recruiter tells you that.
Yeah,
Every
I can't
so
believe
often.
we're even having a recruiter now. I don't remember having a recruiter when I got
You
hired.
didn't need a recruiter.
I mean, I had a background detective that did all your background stuff, but not a recruiter.
You didn't need a
No one had to recruit me.
You didn't need a recruit. When I applied to my current agency, they hired 10 of us. And I am told that something on the order of 1,500 to 2,000 people applied.
Wow.
For right. So we had a recruitment recently, and you know, arguably we could hire 20 right now, right?
Right.
And I think we had 150 apps.
Man.
150 apps.
Wow.
And people going, wow, that's great. That's awesome. That's awesome. And I'm like thinking back to, you know, when I was getting ready to graduate college, and I'm like, oh my God, yeah, I would be a cop. I'm gonna be Martin Riggs and John McClane and Serpico all rolled into one. and you know, and you show up and like, yeah, so and so PD is hiring. You know, I don't know how many are they hiring. I don't know. They're just hiring, and you get up and there's you know 200, 500, 800.
Yeah.
Asses standing in line.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, that's how I ended up going to the Coast Guard for. You know, I wanted to go on the department, but the first, I applied, and the first agency I applied to, I think they were hiring for 30 for the academy, and I think there were 650 or 700 applicants. And I want to say they tested like 300 to 400. I mean, and the testing was over several days because they had to schedule so many in a day, and then, but if you did not have 4 years military or you did not have your college degree, which I did not at the time.
Mr. Denny, yes, can you please advise when the last time you turned water into wine? Yes, that's our hiring.
That's
criteria.
pretty much it. I mean, if you didn't have those, you weren't going to make. I mean, I made it. I felt fortunate. I actually made it to the interview panel, but that was it. Because for 30 positions, there were easily 60, 70 guys that had college degrees and or military. So, without one of those two, you just weren't going to make it.
Oh, and then my first agency, this was what was crazy. I go to take the test, and I thought, well, my chances are better. There's probably about 150 people in this room, right? And then probably about 2-3 weeks go by, and I get a call from a detective and goes, well, I'm doing your background investigation. And I'm like,
all right.
Oh, great. That's awesome. And I said, hey, I'm just random question, how we'd gone on in the process, and we were getting close to the end, and it looked like I was going to get hired. I was like, and they started talking about the academy, and oh wow, maybe this is going to really happen. And then they go, I go, well, how many people are you hiring? How many are going to the academy with me? Oh, it's just you. I'm sorry, what? Yeah, no, it's just you. Well,
You're going to be flying Han Solo.
yeah, exactly. So, yeah. No clever Wookiee companion. But yeah, that was so weird.
That
was
is
so
crazy.
weird. But, I had to go
Sure.
miles and miles and miles away
Right.
from where we now sit
Yep.
to do that,
Yep.
And oh my gosh.
Well, it was just crazy competitive. It was just so many applicants.
Well, I mean, Cops was one of the number one shows on the weekend, right?
Cops was a pretty pretty popular show.
Yeah, but it's not it's not all mental health stuff that we're going to talk about as we go forward, right?
That's right.
Yeah, and it's like we're not going to bore you to death with the sob story of the week. That's not why this podcast exists. There's a lot. There's just so much going on in this profession these days. It dominates the news cycles so many times. Like we just had something that broke off again today here in our town that, again, we will circle back to that perhaps in the future.
Keeping an eye on that.
But it's always something, right? And so like, it's those recruitment issues. It's those retention issues. It's
the leadership.
Yep. Oh my God. I mean, if and then
or lack of.
again, yeah. I mean, leadership or lack of leadership is a huge problem in this profession.
Really
how are we cultivating leaders? Do we even have servant leaders anymore? I mean that all these
Good
things.
Good question.
It's not just dealing with the mopes on the street, right? It's the office.
It's the internal.
Yeah,
the internal. It's just as stressful.
And yeah, exactly, because it all comes back to that mental health and wellness aspect, right? That we keep talking about, and if we're not looking at kind of this big picture, right? Getting us to the staffing levels that the profession needs to have, developing new officers, developing new leaders, dealing with the leaders we got, dealing with the press, all it all compounds over time, and so as we go forward, and we hope to explore a lot of these different issues, and do it from a lot of different perspectives.
Yes.
So we're going to definitely be bringing on a number of folks. I know Denny's been hard at work starting to line some folks up.
We've definitely got some great ones lined up. Definitely, if you're listening, you definitely want to hit that follow button. I think you're going to get a lot out of the folks we have lined up, and we'll be dropping episodes. But that's going to be an important aspect of the show, is bringing in the different perspectives, not just us two jackwagons yapping your ear off.
Jurassic jackwagons. Yeah, and sometimes we're just going to talk about whatever strikes our fancy.
This is true. I mean, we'll just pick some topics.
And we're definitely interested in hearing what you guys want to hear.
Yep. We do have an email. It's wearebadgetothebone@gmail.com. That's probably going to be a temporary. We have a website coming as well. So
probably some social media.
Some social media be coming. Once those things start getting launched, we'll let you know.
Denny has promised that he's going to do an OnlyFans account for later, for those of you that are interested.
I didn't see that in the notes.
That's in my notes. It's right here.
Really didn't see that. We're trying to get listeners, not frighten the listeners.
How do you know that won't get listeners?
Well, yeah. You're right. I don't.
It's 2023. That might get listeners. You never know.
Okay, moving on. So yes, we do have a website coming. We've got some social media coming. We'll definitely keep you up on those. But this is just an important topic.
Right.
It's
and this is a passion project.
It is a passion project. It is. I think the profession means a lot to both of us. I mean, even though I have transitioned on to something else,
and I am transitioning
yes,
on to something else.
It still means a lot to us.
Yeah.
I mean, I grew up. I pretty much grew up in a police station. I mean, my dad was 43 years, and then I followed in his footsteps. So it's been a huge part of my life.
But I think about all the people, that yeah, that I've come to know, people that I literally call brother in every sense of the word.
Yep.
That I've come to know in this profession, and people I knew before this profession, like you, looking back at the photo of our dear departed friend,
yes,
who was also part of that profession. I mean, it's just it becomes a part of your life.
It does. And I think, I still have a lot of people that reach out to me that ask, for, information, or they,
Yep.
pick my brain on things, or what do I think about this, or what do I think about that. But I've still got so many friends in the profession that, I still want them to be well. I still want them to, do well, be healthy, and have all the support they need. So even though we're
don't make some of the screw ups that maybe
absolutely
we collectively have made.
Yeah, and if you do make the screw ups, it's all recoverable.
Right.
Don't let it beat you down to a dark place where you feel there's no way out. So it definitely is still important to us both to keep working to do things to help this profession and help the folks that are still out there, help our brothers and sisters that are still out there, carrying the torch.
Mm-hmm. God bless you, especially you folks that got looking down the barrel of 10, 20 more years.
Oh, man, yes, that's...
God help you.
You'll make it.
You'll make it.
You'll be all right. It's just not an easy time right now.
No, but it passes. Like your dad said, the 70s was the worst.
And that's true. He talked about that a lot. And it comes and goes. But, I definitely think, being in that supportive role, we can still offer something that are out there.
Yep.
All right, well, Al, I think that's going to wrap us up for episode 1 that has finally launched.
I think that did it. Holy shit, we actually did it.
Crazy,
we
isn't it?
actually
That's
did it.
just crazy. I can't believe it. So, I hope you found the information decent. I hope you learned a little bit about us, maybe. But definitely stay tuned. We have coming up on our next episode, police psychologist Dr. Greenberg. And he is fantastic. He's not your typical psychologist.
No, because he's a little crazy too.
He is. So I think you're going to like him. So stay with us. Make sure to follow. Remember, wearebadgetothebone@gmail.com if you'd like to reach out to us. wearebadgetothebone@gmail.com. Otherwise, until then, we'll see you.
Thanks for tuning in. We are out.
And be safe and be well.